Hello once again, this is Uncle Jimmy with Jimmy's Train Station and Travel Adventures, and today I am in Maryland at Fort Fredrick. It's kind of hard to explain where it's at. It's outside of Hagerstown, Maryland, and the way I understand it, which I'm going to learn more about this with you because I don't know much about it, it was a fort built during the French and Indian Wars. So, follow me on this adventure today and enjoy this blog as we go discover Fort Fredrick. So, folks, I just went in the visitor center here and got a little pamphlet. I'm going to read you some information. I was reading here that the fort was built by Horatio Sharp. He was the governor of Providence of Maryland, and he had wrote to Lord Baltimore, proprietor of Maryland, informing him of the plans to build the fort of stone, as wooden forts were being burned by Indians and French. Now, this was built during the time of the French and Indian War, and the strategic location of the national road and the rivers that run along here and the canals made it very good strategic area. Although the fort didn't see much action at all, I'll give you a little history. During the French and Indian War, many important things happened during the period. On May 25th, 1757, two envoys of Maryland Governor Horatio Sharp reported to him that details of their meeting with a party of 62 Cherokee at the Fort Fredrick. That particular Cherokee, led by their Sakamwahachi, had arrived at the fort the previous months. Inquiring about a military alliance, Governor Sharp had immediately sent word to provide $100 of gifts to the Indians, along with instructions that the provision of the fort's commissary while he prepared a response to their proposal. This having been done, Maryland had secured the Indians as comrades in arms against the French and their Indian allies. Also, it said in November of 1758, Colonel Henry Boquet led a formidable force against Fort Desquinch. Such was the impression of the fort of the French set fire to Fort Desquinch and retreated. That fort was in Pittsburgh. Due to a severe outbreak of smallpox and many soldiers died, the troops from Fort Fredrick were unable to participate in this victory. After Desquinch was captured, also named Fort Pitt, need for military readiness for Fort Fredrick was reduced, and the fort and grounds released to a private citizen for farming in 1792. Governor Sharp retained the right to reactivate the fort should the need arise. The next year, this was necessary with Potomac's rebellion, causing over 700 settlers to take refuge at the fort during increased Indian activity in the area. From 1777 to 1783, during the American Revolution, the fort became a prison camp for captured Haitian and British soldiers, but saw no military action. In September of 1791, the state of Maryland sold Fort Fredrick and the land surrounding it to a private owner for $1,871. For 131 years, the fort passed through a succession of private owners. One of them was Nathan Williams, a former slave who bought the Fort Fredrick tract of about 300 acres in 1860 for $7,000. He and his heirs owned, expanded, and farmed the property for 51 years until 1911. Williams built a barn of stone gathered from former fort walls of the orchard, grapevines, and stock pens within the fort. The fort was again occupied by government troops in 1861 when Union troops were stationed there to protect the C&O Canal from Confederate forces during the Civil War. Minor skirmishes were the only time the fort itself saw any conflict. In 1922, the state of Maryland purchased the property. In 1934, the fort became a civilian conservation corps project, and restoration of the site began. Experts on the French and Indian War period were consultants. The first professional archaeological excavation took place in July of 1971 and excavations in 1975. Restoration of portion of the 1756 ground surface. Today, Fort Fredrick boasts restored stone walls and two reconstructed barrack buildings. Today, authentically clothed living history interpreters demonstrate military and domestic culture arts of the day at the restored fort. So, that gives you a little history of the fort. And we're going to drive over and go see the actual fort and the barracks. And like I said, it's not the original fort, but is built to the exact replication on and the construction on the site to the exact place it was built. So let's drive over and join me on this adventure. We're coming up on the fort now. So I thought I'd show it to you from a distance before we actually go in it. Now this is Fort Fredrick here. We are in the state of Maryland, and I read you some history of it. Now we'll go see the actual fort. And you can see the fort wall is made of stone like it said. You can see the two barracks sticking out the top there. And they have built some cabins. So we will walk around. So follow me on this adventure as we discover Fort Fredrick. And go see Fort Fredrick. So we're walking up on the fort now. As you can see, the walls are pretty tall. Probably about 20 feet tall. And the fort's built like in a hexagon shape. Actually, it's a pretty good sized fort. Sit back, enjoy, and take in the sights and sounds. Here is a small cannon.
Mrs. Casey, Stony Point.
This might be a cannon from the time of the Revolutionary War. I'm not sure. But we are inside the fort now. Pretty nice size fort for the time. Walk around and look at the barracks here. Now this is March, the beginning of March, so there's not much going on. If it was springtime, we'd probably have reenactors here living history. And that might have to come back sometime and do that. It's sometimes good to get a little interpretation from the reenactors in living history. Looks like the original wavy glass in the windows. So these are the barracks. There's two of them, one on each side of the fort. As you can see, right across from us is the other one. And they said there was a main house during that time. And the foundation over here still remains. It looks like the original foundation where the main house was. And there is an original well. But this is the foundation. Looks like the original stone foundation of the house. So we'll go take a look at the well. Original well. Now the way I understand it and read the history, the two barracks here housed all the regular soldiers, like your enlisted men. And the main house would have held your officers. Now we're going to go here to the other side of the fort where there's a flagpole. It looks like there's a walkway or a wooden structure where the soldiers could have stood and looked over the fort walls, and I'm sure that had wooden walkways all the way around the fort originally, so the soldiers would be able to fire over the stone wall. But this is what it would have looked like. This is a replica one. And I'm sure that, like I said, that would have went all the way around the original stone wall. As you can see, there is markings where they might have had another one. I don't know how much of the stone wall actually existed during the time of restoration on this. I imagine there was still some remnants of the stone wall. Like I said, I wish I could bring you here during the living history, because it makes it so much more interesting to talk to the historians in first person when they tell you the stories of what the soldiers did, because they're pretty well informed in their history of the time, because this is something they do a lot of. And this looks like some of the books or things of the time that the reenactors use. Orders and drilling and etc. And this would be the parade field here where they would drill and practice marching maneuvers, and the fife and drums and would play. But this is about it, folks. They are working on putting some things in the visitor center, which they're just starting on that, so it's not quite done yet. So eventually they'll have a little museum that you can walk through that they're working on. But I hope you've enjoyed this blog and learned a little history about the French and Indian and Revolutionary War and etc. in this area of Maryland. So I thank you for joining me on this adventure today of Fort Fredrick in Maryland, outside of Hagerstown, Maryland. It's absolutely free to come and visit and come and see. They charge you nothing. It's a national park. So again, I hope you enjoyed this blog today, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you're watching this, feel free to leave comments and suggestions of other things you'd like to see in the future, and give it a thumbs up. And once again, I'm Uncle Jimmy, Jimmy's Train Station and Travel Adventures, and hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, goodbye.